Eric here with 30x40 Design Workshop. We're in my kitchen here in the Longhouse. We're going to head into the studio in a minute, and we're going to be talking about some quick tips to help you improve your architectural sketching technique. So whether you're a student or a pro, or you're just curious as to how architects sketch, I think you'll find this video useful. But first, I have a favor to ask of you. So I just started a new project, and that project is going to involve you. If you want to be a part of this project, I need you to click the link up in the card here or down below in the description, so you can learn more about how you can help, how you can join and be a part of this whole thing. It'll help me to make sure that what I'm making is tailored just to you. It won't take more than 3 minutes of your time, so super quick, and I'd be most appreciative for your help. All right, so let's get out into the studio.
I find that I'm just most happy with my sketches when I've simplified everything, and that includes the tools that I use, my tool set. So limit yourself to just a few things when you're just getting started, and that'll allow you to focus on what's really important. I think even when you've discovered what your sketching style is, it's okay to switch it up from time to time, but more on that in just a minute. Sketching, at least for me, isn't about producing a finished rendering. It's nice to think about it that way because it takes the pressure off of having to make something truly amazing. For me, it's more about hunting for ideas. It's visual thinking, not a final presentation. By starting small, it forces you to distill your ideas to strong, singular gestures and helps you discover what's most important. And staying small also allows you to move more quickly, so you don't kind of waste time trying to work out every last detail. That's not what's important here. And there is this pressure to produce something that's going to fit in your highlight reel, and I think social media forces us to think this way, that everything we put into our sketchbooks, everything that comes out of our pen has to be this amazing work of art, and we're used to seeing everyone else's highlight reel. I would encourage you to sort of abandon that idea and think about your sketchbook or your sketches that you're iterating as just being for your eyes only. You don't have to share them with the whole world, and in fact, it may allow you the freedom to do better work overall. Your own personal sketching style will evolve over time, but architectural sketching is primarily about line work. So your style is comprised of the kinds of lines that you draw. So a couple of tips here. When lines intersect, they should always overlap. So overlapping corners, yeah, it's imprecise, but it helps you to actually move more quickly, and it actually looks more finished than carefully trying to line up every corner perfectly. So just how much they overlap, it's kind of up to you, and it also depends on how large you're drawing. So experiment with it, see what looks right to you. Now, when you're drawing lines, try to use single, continuous, confident strokes. I think a lot of people start by drawing short series of dashes to try and get from one point to another, but it's one single line. And it's okay if it wavers, just you want to go with it. That's kind of part of the architectural style too, is to have a little bit of waver to it. It actually helps you draw a straighter line in the end. Learning to use directional hash marks, that's another important skill. They can be used to suggest surfaces. You can use them to build textures. You'll use them for shading and to just overall create depth in your drawing. Now, one of the other hallmarks of the style is the use of construction or layout lines, and you can do these either in like a light blue or like I do in pencil, and you just kind of feather it really lightly on the page. They're meant to guide your drawing and set proportions, so you can use these if you're looking at sketching a building. Use these to set the basic proportions, and I'll often draw a rectangle or a square and then put an X through it or a slash through it to kind of set this proportional language. And then once you start layering all these things on top of each other, you're going to start drawing on top of your construction or layout lines, and that layering helps create this kind of loose, sketchy aesthetic that I think typifies architectural sketches. Now also be sure and use the full complement of line types available to you. So solid lines, obviously, the different line weights. You want to use dashed lines to indicate surfaces that are above or below where you're drawing. You want to use center lines. So a center line would be like a line with a dot in the middle of it, and then another line section and another dot. Dotted lines, a whole host. So lots of options there. Again, this layering of line types and line weights helps to build this loose, sketchy aesthetic. So adding text and arrows and things like elevation marks, these are all devices that help describe things that you may not be able to capture visually. So you can't fit everything into your sketch that you could possibly want to. But they also start to become part of your visual style. One thing, if you're having trouble with your architectural lettering, one trick I've found is to just write smaller. So go smaller and smaller, make it more and more precious, and also slow it down. Write very slowly. It has this kind of tidying effect to it. And if you need to, again, use layout and construction lines to set some line heights. And then when I'm writing small, I'll make those guidelines even smaller than what I'm writing, and I'll write the letter form a little larger, and that kind of helps tidy it as well. Give that a try. So I have this personal hang up where if I am sketching something and I don't like how it's coming out on the page, it just breaks any momentum that I've been building. And maybe you've encountered this too. I think it's much easier to reach a flow state if I like what I'm producing and I can see that coming out on the page. So when I find myself in that situation where what I'm drawing I'm just not happy with, I like to change up the media that I'm using, or sometimes even the implements that I'm sketching with. So if I'm using pen and ink, I'll switch to colored pencils or graphite. If I'm using a white paper, I'll change to a craft paper or a dark gray paper, something like that, a toned paper. So when I switch it, what happens is quite often I'll just find something starts to look fresh and nice on the page, and it's kind of like this switch has been flicked. So I would say experiment with the tools and media that you're using if you're stuck. You may find certain ones they just start to unlock new ideas. And this doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a whole new kit of art supplies. And you may just switch it up with a coworker or a studio mate, or if you have kids like I do, just raid their art supply stash. So practicing, even if it's just for 15 to 30 minutes a day, it doesn't have to be that long. It's the one thing that's guaranteed to improve your technique. And one way you can do this is to just build a habit loop around it. So for example, if your first impulse is to check social media when you have a free minute, like many of us do, myself included, you might replace that urge with a sketching habit. So pick something in your immediate surroundings and do, say, a 30-second sketch of it. It's a good reason to always keep a sketchbook nearby. And one last reminder to check the link in the cards and the description to get directly involved in my new project. And for more sketching tutorials, check out the playlist linked up here too. Until next time, cheers, my friends.